Hi folks, my name is Dr. Feasting and I'm a survey researcher. And in this video, I'm going to discuss tips on interviewing for a job. I did a big job hunt about a year and a half ago, and then I quickly helped to interview the newest member of my team. So this video is based on my experiences both as someone who's interviewing for a job, but also as someone who has interviewed another person for a job. You'll be really shocked to hear that the survey researchers' advice on interviewing kind of boils down to one phrase. And that phrase is, do your research. The researcher's telling you to do your research. But that doesn't really tell you much about what you should be doing your research on. And really, it boils down to doing your research on the company and the job, and also doing research on yourself and figuring out how your past experiences are actually going to prepare you to be dynamite at this new job. So first and foremost, be able to talk about what attracted you to this job. Not just the duties of the job itself, but the company too. Do your research about the organization, what it does in general, and find a way to connect that to something that you admire or would like to be a part of. You may luck out and you might be applying for a job at like a really do-gooder organization like a seatbelt factory that helps keep people safe. But you might also be applying for a job where you're basically making widgets that go into other widgets, and it's hard to really see the bigger picture of what you do. In that case, you can look at whether the company has been in the news lately for things like sustainability efforts, or maybe volunteering in the community, or anything else that you really admire. Find an honest way to talk about what you admire about this organization and why you want to be a part of it. And be ready to talk about it when the interviewers ask, why this job or why this company? The rest of this is basically a hybrid between researching the job and researching yourself and your past experiences. Next, it's time to sit down with the job description and maybe have a copy of your resume handy. Think about the key skills listed in the job ad. Brainstorm miniature true stories of how your past experiences, whether they're paid or unpaid, helped you develop or show off the key skills required for this position. For instance, if a job wants good written communication skills, you can talk about your work on the school paper or running a club's social media page. If they want good teamwork skills, you can talk about that really difficult group project that you conducted, which is what I did in a recent interview. They asked me, tell us about your teamwork skills. I talked about a project that I managed over 3 different organizations and the sort of compromise and communication and people management that required. Basically, true stories from your past experiences can help show off your skills in a way that's way more engaging and effective than you just sitting there and promising your interviewers that you have good team player skills. Next, be prepared to answer questions about your weaknesses. This can be a little uncomfortable. Sometimes people say to spin your weaknesses as strengths, and so a lot of people might end up saying that their biggest weakness is that they work too much or that they care about their job too much. But I actually prefer to talk honestly about what my weaknesses are and what I'm doing to address them, especially if they're important to the job. In my current job, when I was interviewing for it, I didn't have a lot of customer service skills, but customer service is a definite part of what I do because my research goes into these tools that people use, and I have to help teach people how to use the tools or how to interpret the data that's coming out of the tools if necessary. So in my interview, even though I didn't have customer service skills, I talked about concrete steps I could take to shore up my customer service skills, like watching videos on YouTube, reading books, was a big one, or also reading blog posts from really reputable sources. Sometimes interviewers might ask you about a past challenge where things didn't end up so well. One of my scariest questions for my interview for my current job was about when I had a disagreement with a colleague in the past, and particularly a supervisor in the past, and what I did to resolve it. I was honest about a time when I completed a 2-year research project and my supervisor basically said, this is no good. I want you to redo everything. Even though I had taken the steps to do everything right, my supervisor fundamentally had a different goal for the project and wanted the results to basically say something that the results didn't really say. And so there was a big disagreement about the whole purpose of the project. I explained to my interviewers that I talked calmly and rationally with my supervisor, but needed to go to their boss in the end. And the bosses eventually, when I explained myself calmly, rationally, eventually said that, yeah, your work's satisfactory, you did the process, you can't control if the results aren't what we were really, really hoping for. That's why we conduct research. However, I talked about how I would approach this situation differently in the future, because fundamentally what was going on was that I didn't understand the goals of my supervisor, and really if they wanted to achieve that goal, it would have been better met with not doing a research project. It would have been better met with doing a different kind of project that didn't involve hardcore data in the same way that I'm trying to do. It would have saved a lot of agreement to basically understand the project goals from the beginning and have them written out, so we could have discussed what the best process for achieving that goal was. And this sort of research project just wasn't suited to fulfilling the goals that my supervisor had. During the interview, be honest, but be professional and positive. This is the last but not least. And this is sort of do your research on being professional and upbeat, yet honest. Not all questions that you get asked in an interview are going to be happy topics, and some of them can be quite challenging. For me, it was actually very difficult to talk about the situation in which I disagreed with my supervisor because I was still pretty angry about that situation. It felt like 2 years of work were for nothing and they weren't happy with me. However, I refrained from the desire to just say, oh, this supervisor was really difficult to work with, yada, 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 and pointing blame, because that's not really professional. I actually got to see this happen in real life when I was interviewing for the newest, when I was interviewing people to join my team. The strangest interview I sat in for that process was when we asked a candidate why he was searching for a new position, and then he basically lambasted his current colleagues and said, oh, this person's so difficult to work with, this person's awful. And it was really awkward because one of the interviewees knew all the people that this person was talking about and sort of naming. So you never know who's listening, and so it always pays to be really professional and not be playing a blame game. Don't be negative, be honest, but don't go out of your way to be negative and point blame at people. I'm confident if you do your research on the company and the position and do your research on your past experiences and your weaknesses that you are going to totally rock this interview out of the park. Good luck. Bye.